The flight was supposed to be quiet, normal, and forgettable. People boarded slowly, dragging tired feet and heavy bags. No one paid much attention to the woman who slipped into seat 22C. She looked like any other traveler's simple clothes. A small backpack, a calm face that did not invite questions. To everyone around her, she was just another tourist trying to reach her next destination. But there was something about her silence that felt unusual. She barely spoke. She only nodded when the cabin crew offered water. She kept her hands folded, her gaze steady on the window, as if watching something far away, something no one else could see. The passengers around her had no idea that her past life was the reason she sat so quietly, and why she avoided attention. She wanted the world to forget her, or maybe she wanted to forget the world. Either way, she stayed invisible. The flight took off smoothly. People relaxed, settled into their seats, opened entertainment screens. A kid played a loud game. A businessman typed endlessly on his laptop. A couple argued softly about hotel reservations. Everything felt normal until 45 minutes into the sky. The first sign came as a strange vibration under the floor. It was subtle, easy to ignore, but the woman in 22C stiffened. She knew that feeling. Jets, fast ones. Not commercial jets. Military. She glanced out the window, her calm expression cracking for the first time. Another vibration followed, this time sharper, like controlled turbulence. The captain's voice came over the speakers, steady but tense in a way only trained ears could hear. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated. We're experiencing a minor routing update. Nothing to worry about, but she knew. That tone wasn't about routing. It was about visitors. The passengers whispered among themselves. Some looked out their windows, confused. A few joked that maybe the flight was entering a restricted zone. No one imagined what was actually happening in the sky around them. The woman in 22C slowly opened the small pocket of her backpack. Inside was only one thing, a folded card with an old insignia. She touched it with her thumb, as if reminding herself that she once belonged to a world she tried to leave behind. Then the shaking stopped. Suddenly, too suddenly, something was flying beside them. The businessman in 22A leaned toward the window, his face pale. Is that a fighter jet? The entire left side of the aircraft erupted in gasps. Phones lifted, hands shook. People pressed their faces against the glass. A sleek military jet was right beside them, matching their speed, its pilot's helmet shining under the sun. The woman in 22C closed her eyes. She knew this wasn't a mistake. This was a message. The captain's voice came again, this time not. Calm, controlled, careful, strained. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated. We have been asked to identify one passenger. Cabin crew will be moving through the aisle shortly. Please follow all instructions. People panicked silently. The flight attendants walked quickly, their faces tight. They checked seat numbers, whispered to each other, nodded like they already had a name. One of them stopped at row 22. Her voice was soft, respectful, almost nervous. Ma'am, may I speak with you for a moment? The woman looked up, and something cold washed over her face. She gave the smallest nod. The attendant hesitated, then spoke the words that made even nearby passengers sit frozen. The cockpit received a message from Air Force One. They requested confirmation if a passenger with your call sign is on board. Gasps broke out. Someone dropped a cup. Someone else whispered, Air Force One? Why would they care about a tourist? The woman in 22C didn't answer. Instead, she reached into her bag and took out the folded insignia card. The attendant swallowed hard when she saw it. It wasn't just a card. It was a symbol from a unit known only in emergency situations, an elite group that never appeared publicly and never traveled without escort unless authorized. The attendant bowed her head slightly. Ma'am, the captain requests that you come forward. She sighed quietly. The kind of sigh that belonged to someone who had spent years carrying heavy secrets. She had boarded this plane hoping to stay invisible. But the world she had walked away from had found her again, all the way up here in the clouds. As she stood, passengers moved aside without understanding why they felt compelled to. Something about her presence changed. She was no longer the silent tourist. She was someone important, someone powerful, someone the national security of a whole country wanted to confirm. She walked down the aisle slowly, her hands steady, but her eyes carrying years of stories no one around her would ever understand. At the front, the captain waited, pale and wide-eyed. "Ma'am, Air Force One has ordered an escort flight until we land. They said your call sign is active again, and they need your confirmation." She didn't speak right away. She simply looked out the cockpit window, where another jet had joined the first, flying protectively beside them. Then she whispered the words that changed the entire flight. "Tell them. The call sign is real." Asterisk when the woman confirmed her call sign, the captain almost forgot how to breathe. He nodded quickly, as if trying to look calm, but his hands were shaking. Outside, the fighter jets tightened their formation, one on each side of the aircraft, another rising behind them like a silent guardian. Passengers whispered in fear and confusion. Some thought there was a threat on board. Others believed the woman had done something wrong. But when she walked back from the cockpit to her seat, she didn't look dangerous. She looked burdened, like someone who didn't ask for this attention, who wanted nothing more than to remain unseen. But the world had different plans for her today. She sat down in 22C again. But the people near her were no longer calm. The businessman pretended he wasn't staring, but his eyes kept drifting to her. The couple beside her leaned away slightly, unsure what to think. Even the child across the aisle paused his game just to peek at her face. She noticed all of it, but said nothing. She simply folded the insignia card again and placed it gently back in her bag. Inside her mind, old memories she worked hard to bury were breaking free. The sound of engines roaring behind her, a voice yelling through a headset, a code phrase that only a few people in the world knew, and her own calm reply. The last time she used her call sign, she thought she had closed that chapter. She thought she had left everything behind. She thought the world forgot her, but the escort jets outside proved otherwise. A flight attendant returned quietly and knelt beside her seat. "Ma'am," the captain asked, "if you're comfortable, we can move you to the front if you like." The woman shook her head. "No, I stay here." "Do you need anything?" "No, thank you." The attendant nodded and left, but her expression held something new, respect mixed with fear. Not fear of danger, fear of importance. As if she now understood that the woman was connected to something far above normal life. A few rows behind, a man whispered loudly, "Why would Air Force One care about someone on this flight?" Another answered, "Maybe she's a threat." Third replied, No. Did you see the jets? They're protecting us. They're protecting her." The woman in 22C closed her eyes again. She wasn't surprised by the questions. She had heard questions like these all her life whenever her past identity leaked into public view. Suddenly, the captain's voice came on again. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are now in restricted airspace. There is no danger. This is a routine protective escort. Please stay seated." Routine? No, nothing about this was routine. The woman knew what restricted airspace meant. She knew who flew inside it. And she knew that Air Force One did not call civilian aircraft unless the situation was serious. The businessman finally gathered courage. "Ma'am, are we safe?" he asked quietly. She looked at him with calm, steady eyes. "Yes, you are safe. Are you some kind of government person?" She didn't answer. He swallowed, then tried again. "Why are they here? What did they want? From you?" She stared out the window, watching the military jet glide beside them, steady and precise. They wanted to know if I was still alive. She finally said, her voice almost a whisper. The businessman froze. The couple beside her stopped. Breathing. Even the kid across the aisle lowered his tablet. Alive? What did that mean? Who checks that? Why did Air Force One care whether this silent woman in 22C existed or not? But she didn't explain more. Instead, she sank deeper into her seat, as if trying to disappear again. Outside, the jets shifted slightly. The sun glimmered off their wings. Their presence was a message to the entire sky. This plane matters. Something or someone on board matters. The captain called the lead jet for updates. His voice trembled with every word he said. The crew whispered anxiously. And the passengers realized this was no normal flight. This was something historic, something none of them would forget. Then for the first time, the woman turned and looked down the aisle. She wasn't looking at the people. She was looking at the exit doors, at the structure of the plane itself, at the details no ordinary traveler would scan. She was assessing, analyzing, preparing, as if she knew something else was coming, and she was right. A sudden tone rang through the speakers, one the passengers had never heard before. Not a safety alert, not turbulence. Something else. The captain's voice came on again, but this time even he sounded confused. Ladies and gentlemen, we have just received a second message from Air Force One. They say this flight is now under presidential watch. A wave of shock rippled through the plane. Presidential watch? For what? For who? The woman in 22C opened her eyes fully. Her calm expression vanished. Her face changed, not fearful but ready. Why? Why would the president care about her? Someone whispered. The businessman answered without meaning to. Because she's someone important. But they had no idea. The woman slowly tightened her seatbelt, took a breath, and whispered to herself. They found me for a reason. Asterisk. The moment the captain said, this flight is now under presidential watch, the atmosphere inside the plane changed completely. Passengers no longer whispered, they stared. Some with fear, some with curiosity, and some with awe. But the woman in 22C didn't look at anyone. She kept her eyes fixed on the Escort jet outside. The jet tilted slightly, a subtle signal only someone with deep military training would understand. It wasn't a greeting. It wasn't a routine maneuver. It was a warning. Something else was in the sky. She felt it before she saw it. An energy in the air that only pilots who had danced on the edge of danger recognized. Her breathing slowed. Her fingers curled slightly against her knees. Her body shifted posture, not out of panic, but out of instinct. She whispered under her breath, so this is why they came. No one around her understood the tension tightening her voice. A minute later, a faint shadow fell over the cabin. It passed like a slow-moving cloud, but the woman knew it wasn't a cloud. It was too controlled, too steady. She unbuckled her seatbelt and stood up. Passengers stiffened. The flight attendants hurried toward her. Ma'am, please sit. Captain asked everyone to stay seated. He asked passengers. She replied calmly. Not me. Her tone wasn't rude. It was direct, firm, the tone of someone used to giving orders, not receiving them. The attendants froze. They didn't understand why. But something about her voice made them step back. She walked down the aisle with careful steps. People moved aside without being asked, like they were guided by something invisible. They didn't know who she was, but their bodies reacted to her presence before their minds did. Halfway through the aisle, the plane shook just once, sharp and deliberate. The passengers gasped. The attendants grabbed seats for balance, but the woman didn't react. She kept walking. A man blurted out, "What is happening up there? Is this a hijacking?" Another whispered, "No. This is something bigger." The businessman from row 22 called out softly, "Ma'am, please tell us, what is going on?" She turned slightly, met his eyes, and spoke in the softest but clearest tone. "We are not alone in this airspace. Something is here that should not be." Before anyone could ask more, the cockpit door unlocked with a beep, something that never happened during flight. The captain stood there, pale and sweating. "Ma'am, they asked for you again." She stepped inside the cockpit. The door shut. Inside, the pilots were shaking. Not because of the plane, but because they had received a direct message from the aircraft flying above them. A message with a code only a few people on Earth understood. One of the pilots pointed to the screen. "This is the ID they sent. We've never seen anything like this." She leaned closer. On the screen was a symbol, a crest so old and classified that most modern military personnel didn't even know it existed anymore. But she did. Her face hardened. "It's them," she whispered. The pilots exchanged terrified glances. "Ma'am, Air Force One said your call sign matches theirs. They asked if they should engage or hold fire." Her heart dropped at those words. Engage meant a sky battle. Hold fire meant negotiation. But neither should be happening during a civilian commercial flight. She looked at the pilots and asked, "Do you have external visuals?" The captain switched the monitor. A grainy image appeared, something large, something dark, something that flew with unnatural steadiness. Not an aircraft she recognized. Not one used by their allies. And not one that followed human flight patterns. Her jaw clenched. She hadn't expected them to appear today. Not after all these years. Not after everything that happened. The co-pilot, voice shaking, asked, "Ma'am, what exactly is that?" She didn't answer immediately. She stared at the shape in the clouds, her mind pulling from old training, from old missions, from the world she left behind. Finally she whispered, "A ghost." The pilot stared. "What?" "A ghost unit," she clarified. "An aircraft that's not supposed to exist anymore. Is it hostile?" She exhaled slowly. "It depends who they think I am." The cockpit radio crackled. A voice came through deep. Cold, precise. "Identify yourself." "Call sign, Falcon 0, confirm identity." The pilot's head snapped toward her. Falcon 0, the name that had once been whispered across the highest levels of national security. The call sign of a person who vanished from the world years ago. She closed her eyes. Her silence dragged into seconds that felt like hours. Finally she pressed the radio button. Her hand steady, her voice calm. "This is Falcon 0. The cockpit felt like it stopped breathing. The shadow aircraft above them responded. Identity confirmed. Protocol 7 initiated. The captain whispered, "What does that mean?" She answered without blinking. "It means this flight, and everyone on it, has just entered a restricted rescue zone." "Rescue?" the co-pilot asked. "Who are we rescuing?" She turned her head slightly, her expression turning heavy, almost painful. "They are not here for you. They are here for me." Asterisk. The cockpit fell completely silent after her words. "They are here for me." The captain stared at her like he was seeing a ghost. The co-pilot swallowed hard, gripping the controls, even though the plane was on autopilot. Even the soft beeping of instruments sounded louder, sharper, as if the aircraft itself felt the tension. Outside, the Escort jets tightened formation again, one rising higher, two dropping lower, one positioning ahead like a shield. It was no longer just protection. It looked like preparation. Preparation for something none of the passengers knew. Something even the crew didn't understand. The mysterious shadow aircraft above them moved closer. Its dark shape now more defined on the monitor, smooth edges, no visible wings, no tail, no markings. It wasn't built like any civilian or military plane. It looked like a silent predator, watching its target. The captain finally found his voice. "Ma'am, why would they come for you? Who are they?" She didn't answer him directly. Instead, She stepped closer to the screen and stared at the aircraft above them. Her face softened for a moment, not out of fear, but something deeper. Something like regret. They weren't supposed to fly again, she whispered. Not after what happened. What happened? The pilot asked. She exhaled, slow and tired. An operation years ago, one that went wrong. They were a special ghost unit, silent, hidden, impossible to track. I was part of the only team trained to communicate with them. And your call sign Falcon 0 was the signal they used when everything failed, she finished. The pilots looked at each other, terrified but curious. So they think you're still active? She nodded. They think I'm their handler. Are you? Her jaw tightened. Not anymore. Before the pilots could ask more, the radio crackled again. Falcon 0, respond. Protocol 7 authorized. Prepare for extraction. Extraction? The captain's face turned white. Extraction? They can't extract someone from a commercial flight. But the woman in 22C Falcon 0 was already thinking ahead. Her eyes scanned the interior of the cockpit, then the door behind her, then the layout of the aircraft in her memory. Captain, she said calmly, I need access to your emergency channel. What for? To prevent panic. He hesitated. Then, slowly, he handed her the headset. She didn't speak immediately. She closed her eyes, took a breath, and when she opened them, the calm tourist in 22C was gone. The woman standing in the cockpit now had presence authority, like she had stepped back into a role she never wanted, but could never escape. She pressed the emergency channel button. This is Falcon 0, she said softly, the aircraft above. Then responded instantly, command received. Extraction in 2 minutes, the captain panicked. 2 minutes? Ma'am, what does that mean? What will they do? She didn't answer him. She was thinking too fast, calculating, connecting. Dots. She had one question on her mind. Why now? Why after all these years? Then something clicked, a detail she almost missed. On the radar screen, the unknown aircraft was not alone. 2 smaller signals were behind it. Not escort fighters, not drones, not any known aircraft. Her chest tightened. No, she whispered. They're not here to take me. They're chasing someone. Chasing? Who? The co-pilot asked. She pointed to the secondary signals. These 2 aircraft followed the ghost unit. They shouldn't be here. They're not ours. You mean hostile? The captain asked. Unknown, she corrected. But they are. Close, too close. The captain's breathing turned shallow. So Air Force One sent protection for you? And for this flight, she added. Because if those unknown aircraft attack, we're in the crossfire. The co-pilot trembled. This is a nightmare. But she wasn't panicking. Her mind was working like a machine, sharp, precise. She put the headset back on. Ghost unit, this is Falcon 0. Do not engage near civilians. Confirm mission objective. A chilling pause. Then the reply came cold, mechanical, almost inhuman. Objective secure, Falcon 0. Her heart sank. They were here for her. She pressed the radio button again. Negative, she said firmly. I am not available for extraction. The cockpit felt like it froze. The ghost aircraft replied instantly with a line that made the co-pilot lose all color in his face. Protocol 7 overrides all objections. You belong to us. The captain whispered. Ma'am, what does that mean? She looked at him with a calm expression that hid a storm beneath. It means they are coming whether I want it or not. Suddenly, boom, a distant, deep sound echoed from outside, shaking the plane. Passengers screamed. The lights flickered. The escort jets spread out rapidly. An unknown aircraft had fired something, not at them, but near them. A warning shot, a signal, or a threat. The woman steadied herself against the cockpit wall. It has started, she murmured. They found each other, the captain shouted. What do we do? She turned, her voice steady. You keep flying. You trust the jets outside, and you let me handle the rest. How? The captain asked. She looked at the radio, her old lifeline, her old battlefield. I know their language, she said softly. I trained them. And if anyone can stop this sky from becoming a war zone, it's me. Asterisk. The shake that hit the aircraft wasn't violent, but it was strong enough to remind everyone that the sky around them had changed from peaceful to dangerous. The passengers gasped, some cried, some clung to their armrests. The child who had been playing earlier now held his mother's hand so tightly his tiny knuckles went white. But inside the cockpit, the woman Falcon 0 stood calm. Even as the world outside rumbled with tension, she placed the headset back over her ears, steady fingers adjusting the mic. Every small movement showed training, precise, sharp, confident. She wasn't a tourist anymore. She had become the one thread holding this entire situation together. The radio crackled violently. Unidentified crafts approaching Ghost Unit. Distance closing. The captain's panic rose. Why would they follow us? Why here? She didn't look at him. They're not following the plane, she said. They're following the Ghost Unit. And the Ghost Unit followed me. The captain's breath caught. So they're here because you are here? She nodded once. Outside, another escort jet soared upward, blocking the path of one of the unknown signals. Through the cockpit window, streaks of metallic reflections flashed, jets twisting, cutting angles, maneuvering like predators circling each other. The sky wasn't the battlefield yet, but it was seconds away from becoming one. Falcon 0 leaned toward the radio again. Ghost Unit, stand down. Civilians aboard. Do not engage. The reply came sharp and immediate. Falcon 0, mission is active. Extraction required. Civilians. Secondary. Negative, she snapped. This is not an authorized operation. A cold pause followed, then the word she feared. Authorization traced to command code A17. Her eyes widened. That code, that was impossible. That code belonged to someone she believed gone. Someone who once trained with her. Someone who once trusted her with their life. Someone who disappeared during the last failed mission. The cockpit felt like it. Shrank around her. The captain whispered, "What does that code mean?" "It means," she replied quietly, "someone from my past has activated a mission that should never have existed." Before the pilots could speak, a sudden flash lit the clouds outside. A bright streak darted upward, one of the unknown crafts. Accelerating fast. The jet beside them responded instantly, cutting across in a protective arc. The passengers screamed again as the plane vibrated lightly. Falcon 0 looked out the window, observing every movement with eyes that had seen combat. Skies before. "Captain," she said, turning toward him, "put the plane on manual." "Manual, but the airspace." "Do it," she repeated. "Autopilot can't predict hostile maneuvers." The captain obeyed, hands trembling as he took control. The plane dipped slightly, adjusting position between the escort jets. The passengers panicked at the movement, but the woman knew it was safer like this. She pressed the emergency channel button again. "Ghost Unit, clarify objective." "Why extraction? Why now?" This time the reply came slower, almost hesitant. "Directive received from a 17. Last message. Find her before they do." Her heartbeat staggered. Before who? The radio crackled again, but this time it wasn't. "The Ghost Unit." A new voice entered the channel. Deep, distorted, unknown. "Falcon 0. You should have stayed hidden." The co-pilot jerked upright. "Who is that?" She froze, every muscle in her body tightening. "No," she whispered. "It can't be." The voice continued. "You walked away. You left us. But the sky remembers." "You." The cockpit chilled. The captain asked, "Ma'am, do you know this voice?" She didn't answer. Her silence was answer enough. The unknown voice added, "You belong to us, and today, the world will see that." The captain grabbed the controls tightly. "We need to get out of this airspace." "You can't," she said softly. "They've surrounded us." As if to prove her words, the radar showed 3 new blips closing in from different directions. Co-pilot stammered, "Ma'am, who are these people?" She inhaled deeply, her voice low and honest. "People who were once on my side. And now?" The captain asked. She looked at the screen, at the unknown craft chasing the ghost unit, at the jets trying to push them back. "Now I am their target." Another boom shook the distance, not a hit, but a warning shot fired between 2 hostile crafts. Falcon 0 lifted the headset again. "Ghost unit, this is Falcon 0. Change course. Lead threats away from civilian airspace." A pause. Then came a message that made her blood run cold. "Cannot comply. Threat priority. Falcon 0, the captain gasped. "They're not protecting you. They're chasing you?" She nodded slowly. "And because I am here, this entire plane is caught in the middle." Her eyes fell on the passengers beyond. The cockpit door, the families, the travelers, people who had no idea what kind of danger they were in. Something shifted inside her. A feeling she had buried years ago. Responsibility. "This has to end," she whispered. "How?" the captain asked. She stared at the radio, her lips tight, her eyes sharp with decision. "I need to talk to him." "To the hostile pilot?" "No," she said quietly. "To the one who sent them. The one using code S17. The one who knows my call sign better than anyone." The co-pilot swallowed. "What are you going to say?" Her voice softened, filled with something between fear and strength. "The truth." The cockpit felt smaller than ever. The lights blinked softly. The plane trembled every few seconds as the jets around them changed formation. But the woman Falcon 0 stood still, her hand hovering over the emergency radio, like she was touching a memory. The unknown voice had shaken her more than any explosion outside. Not because it threatened her, but because it knew her past, knew her call sign. Knew what she once walked away from. The captain wiped sweat from his forehead. "Ma'am, if this person knows you, maybe talking to him will help." She shook her head slowly. "Or it might make things worse." The co-pilot whispered, "Is he dangerous?" She didn't answer at first. Her chest rose slowly as she breathed in, remembering things she wished she could forget. Finally she said, "He was trained with me. We were a team once. But he didn't walk away like I did. Why did you leave?" The captain asked gently. Her gaze lowered. "Because we lost too many good people, and I couldn't carry it anymore." A beat of silence followed. The plane hummed around them. Outside, another streak of movement cut across the clouds. Jet intercepting one of the unknown crafts. The captain checked the radar. "They're getting too close. If they start firing, they won't fire first," she said. "They want me alive." "And what about us?" the co-pilot asked. Her eyes softened with guilt. "That depends on what I do next." She put the headset back on. "Unknown aircraft, identify yourself," she said. A long pause. Then the same distorted voice replied, "You know who I am." She closed her eyes for half a second. When she opened them, the passengers in her mind disappeared. The cockpit disappeared. Even the shaking vanished. She was back in a training room years ago, wind roaring outside, rotors from a helicopter spinning, her partner standing beside her. He had once said, "Your call sign is Falcon 0. Mine will follow you always." She forced her voice to stay steady. "Give me your name." Silence. Then the voice answered, "You called me Ghostwing once. Do you remember?" The co-pilot's breath caught. "Ghostwing? That sounds like a call sign." Her hands trembled slightly, just slightly. "Yes," she replied. "I remember." The voice continued, now less distorted, more human. I told you I would finish what our team started, but you left me behind. You pretended the sky wasn't ours anymore. Her throat tightened. The mission failed. We lost people. I couldn't. Keep going. You abandoned everything, he said. And now look where you are, hiding on a commercial flight, pretending to be a tourist. The captain stepped forward. Sir, this is a civilian aircraft. There are innocent people. Silence, the voice cut sharply. I am speaking to Falcon Zero. The captain fell quiet. She inhaled deeply and spoke again. This time, her voice carried something different, strength layered with old pain. What do you want from me? Return to command, he replied. Protocol 7 has been activated. Your place is with us. No, she said firmly. That life is over for me. It doesn't matter, he snapped. Your call sign was reactivated the moment we detected you alive. You belong to the sky again. Outside, the Ghost Unit aircraft shifted above them, inching closer. The escort jets around them mirrored the movement, ready to block or strike if needed. The captain whispered, They're boxing us in. She didn't look outside. She kept her eyes on the radio. You don't need me, she said to the voice. Whatever mission you're running, you can handle it. It's not about the mission, he whispered back. It's about us. Those 3 words hit harder than any turbulence. The co-pilot looked confused. Us? She answered quietly. He wasn't just my teammate. He was someone I trusted. Someone she lost. Someone she thought died. Someone she mourned. His voice softened. I searched for you for years. You disappeared from every radar, every record. I thought you were gone forever. Her voice cracked slightly. I wanted peace. You can't run from who you are, he said. Falcon Zero doesn't vanish. I'm not Falcon Zero anymore. A long silence. Then the unknown craft above them tilted its shadow, moving over the plane like a dark wing. That I will bring you back by force, he said quietly. The cockpit froze. The captain grabbed the controls. He can't extract someone from a plane. He can, she whispered. And he will try. Why you? The co-pilot asked. Why not order you, invite you, talk calmly? She looked down at her hands. Because he thinks he's doing the right thing. He thinks bringing me back will save everything we lost. The captain swallowed hard. So how do we stop him? She looked at the radio, then at the radar signals, and finally at the passengers through the cockpit door. We don't stop him, she said. I stop him. The co-pilot frowned. How? She took a slow breath. By telling him the truth he's been running from. Before anyone could ask what truth she meant, a loud alert beeped on the radar, one of the unknown aircraft, breaking formation and diving toward the plane. She grabbed the radio instantly. Ghost Wing, she said sharply, her voice suddenly fierce. Stand down. The voice grew desperate. Don't make me lose you again. She replied with a trembling whisper, filled with a pain she had buried for years. You already did. The sky outside erupted in movement. The sky erupted into motion so fast that the passengers didn't understand what was happening. They only felt the sudden tilt of the plane, the sharp gasp of air, the trembling of metal as 2 military jets locked themselves between the unknown craft and the civilian aircraft. But Falcon Zero understood everything. The unknown aircraft diving toward them was not firing. It wasn't trying to destroy the plane. It was trying to reach her. Ghost Wing wasn't coming as an enemy. He was coming like someone desperate, someone afraid of losing, the one person he believed he could save. She grabbed the captain's shoulder. Hold the line. Don't climb or descend, stay steady. The captain nodded, swallowing his fear. Outside, escort jets flashed past the windows, wings cutting through the air like blades of light. The passengers screamed, prayed, clung to their seats. But in the middle of all the chaos, the woman in 22C remained calm. She stepped into the cockpit doorway, standing where she could see both the sky and the terrified people behind her. She had to fix this. She had to end this. She lifted the radio. "Ghostwing," she said softly. "Listen to me." His voice came through sharp and panicked. "I can't. They're closing in on us. They want to shut down the ghost unit, don't you understand? If they destroy me, if they shut us down, everything we fought for ends." "Ghostwing," she repeated, her tone slower, deeper. "Look at your radar. Look at what you're doing." A pause, static, breathing. Then, "I see it," he whispered. "You're dragging civilians into a war they don't belong in," she said. "Families, children, innocent people." "I'm not trying to hurt them," he said, voice breaking. "But you are," she whispered. "This plane, these people, none of them deserve to be part of our past." Another silence. Then she said something she had avoided for years. "You're not saving me. You're holding on to a memory of who I used to be." The co-pilot shot her a quick glance, shocked at her honesty. Ghostwing's voice cracked. "You walked away without even telling me why." Her throat tightened. "I walked away," she said, "because I loved the sky too much. And it kept taking people away from me, including you." The cockpit went still. Even the plane felt quieter. Ghostwing's breathing hitched. You cared?" "I cared enough to leave," she said, tears filling her eyes though her voice stayed steady. "I cared enough to let you survive the sky without being held down by me." His voice was barely a whisper. "I never wanted to survive without you." She closed her eyes briefly. "But you did." Outside, the unknown craft slowed its dive, hovering dangerously close, but no longer advancing. The escort jets circled tightly, ready to fire if needed. The ghost unit aircraft stayed above, waiting for instructions. The sky held its breath. Falcon Zero spoke again, this time as the woman she had buried, not the soldier she once was. "You don't need Falcon Zero," she said softly. "You need peace, and so do I." Ghostwing didn't answer. Instead, something unexpected happened. The unknown aircraft pulled upward sharply, retreating from the civilian plane. The escort jets followed, but the craft didn't engage it, simply drifted back, almost as if surrendering. Ghostwing's voice returned, softer than she had ever heard. "I didn't come to fight you," he said. "I came because I thought losing you again would destroy me." Her voice cracked. "You never lost me. I just chose a different sky." For the first time since the incident began, the radar quieted. The ghost unit aircraft rose higher, distancing from the commercial plane. The hostile crafts turned away one by one, disappearing into the clouds. The co-pilot whispered, "They're pulling back." The captain exhaled for the first time in minutes. "We're safe." Falcon Zero wasn't crying, but her eyes glimmered with a softness no one had seen until now. Ghostwing's final transmission came through almost a farewell. "Then let me choose my sky too," he said. "And let it be away from you, so you can live the life you wanted." Her chest tightened painfully. "Ghostwing." "Wait!" The radio crackled once more, his last words heavy, human, and heartbreakingly gentle. "Goodbye, Falcon Zero." Then his signal disappeared. The ghost unit aircraft tilted its wings one last time, an old sign. Their sign, and vanished into the clouds. The escort jets following behind as the sky slowly fell silent again. The captain turned to her. "Ma'am, you saved us." She stared at the empty radar screen, her voice soft. "No." "He did." When she walked back to seat 22C, the passengers parted without a word. Some looked at her with gratitude, some with awe, some with confusion. But no one spoke. No one needed to. She sat down slowly, finally allowing her hands to tremble. For the first time in years, she wasn't running from the sky. She wasn't hiding from who she used to be. She wasn't Falcon Zero, not anymore. She was simply a woman. On a plane, choosing peace over war, choosing life over duty. And somewhere far above the clouds, a man who once fought beside her was choosing the same. The plane continued toward its destination, calm, safe, quiet, and seat 22C finally felt like home.